All right, where I left you off, I was having trouble finding any sort of resources, any information at all about a student-driven gen ed program, course design, assessment, anything like that, which gave me considerable pause. But there are a couple of things that I realized that I could do. And so it just shows you that we get frustrated trying to track articles down too, and kind of when our first idea and our second idea and our third idea don't work out, we're like left with nothing. I had a cup of coffee, well, half a cup of coffee, still working on it. And I did a couple of more searches, and here were some things that I decided to do. I haven't written anything yet, but let me just do that a little bit now. So I have two ideas I can pursue. One, I can look at any course design that was student-driven, and I might do both of these things. For example, feedback-driven course changes. And then two, I can look at gen ed course design. And this isn't letting me scroll down more. And show how students are systematically left out of the process. So this is two very different categories of research that I can be looking at to try to find resources. So let's jump back over here. I had originally done a search on like gen ed best practices. A best practice is what's considered to be evidence-based support of student success. So like these changes lead to, there's evidence showing that these changes lead to increased student success. And I got to a University of North Carolina system, a UNC system document, and I was like, well, I'm not part of that, so why don't I look at the Georgia Board of Regents document? And so I've got here a description about the general framework, so the guidelines, Council of Gen Ed webpage, some course recommendations. Notice all of the language here is institution driven. So it's like the schools don't even decide this. The university system, the Board of Regents, like the distant kind of advising board, decides how many hours you need, where those hours need to be taken, 18 hours in the field of study prerequisites, and it's shared across all universities. So I can, I'm just going to copy this and then include it as just a general. So this is Board of Regents website summarizing how all of these policies aren't even decided by the schools, let alone students. They're decided by distant regions. So I can talk more about that in the actual lit review that I write. So what else might I look for? Let me get 3 here and then 3 up there. So I also know in gen ed, how about general education teaching practices? I'm just doing a general internet search, but what I'm looking for are books. I'm thinking of a few in particular, and they didn't come up. So I see, let me just talk you through some of this. There is a University of California, Irvine, I'm guessing, UCI Division of Teaching Excellence and Innovation. All right, so this is a very good school, but their interpretation of what should happen. We've got a teaching blog, an assessment. This is a teaching assessment, a Georgia teaching assessment, maybe government website, a bunch of blogs, even a Harvard University op-ed or a Gen Ed summary. So these are just universities defining what it is that they're doing. But none of these, I mean, if they were written by the University System of Georgia School, maybe I would include it. And any of these would be okay because it shows precedent. But I want to know, like, what is the absolute best? So I want something that's peer reviewed. I'm going to go to Amazon. I'm going to search general education. I'm going to search that in books. General Education Essentials. And this is what I was looking for. This is a book that I've read. But if I hadn't, the first thing I would do, I've already saw that it was published in 2024. This, by the way, is like information literacy, the steps I'm going through. It's published by Routledge, which I happen to know is a fantastic academic book publisher. I've been a reviewer of Routledge for about 8 years. So I'm familiar with the process and the rigor of what's included. Now, this is just an online website about a book. This isn't reading the book. This isn't even getting PDFs. Look, I'm asking for complete PDFs for all resources. If I'm going to quote a chapter, I can't take a screenshot of this. I can't even take a screenshot of like reading a sample. I might be able to see something, but not much. Oh, they don't even have any chapters. But I belong to a library, so I'm going to look it up there. And I think I have, yeah. So you can go to the ASU homepage, a library homepage. I'm going to search for General Education Essentials by Handstedt. Make sure I spelled that right. Handstedt. And look at that. We have a copy with online access. And so if I log in, I can, there's just a few steps there. I can log in and I can download book chapters directly from there, which I did years ago. Let's see if I can pull those up. So I've got 1, 2, what's this chapter? General education at the course level, that would probably work. Structuring general education, that's probably the one. So I have 3 of those chapters that I downloaded at a different time. So you can see here, I've got those PDFs. And so I could go through and read them. I'm looking specifically for recommendations about how to organize classes, and I want to see whether or not students are included in that process. And my expectation is that they're not. So now I've got the Handstedt, so I'll write that Handstedt General Education Essentials. We'll put that in my documents. That was 2024 by Routledge. Now's not the time to put in the bibliographical information. I'll do that at another step. In fact, that's going to be down here when I actually create the artifact. All right, so I've got 2 here. I want 1 more Gen Ed course design. And actually, I wonder if I can get a recommendation here. Oh, you know what I can do? Let me just look up general education in our library. Note, I prefer books because books are more thorough, and they usually represent a bunch of research that the author has done. So it's not like one study, it's like a whole series of studies. So let me see what books we've got. 1988. I do not want a date range from 1801. Let's say 2020 to 2026. Still have 1,500 results. Teacher's Guide to Autism. Inclusion. Guide to Ivy League Miseducation. Yikes. Okay, I want books. Oops, I did the opposite. Something written by Donald Trump. I like this. Amplifying student and youth voices in education research. Yes, please. If you're not familiar with using the library catalog, just clicking on the book will tell you where it is published, when it was published, but it also gives you, usually it gives you the table of contents. I don't actually see that here though, unfortunately. So you can see like what the chapters are, but we get a summary here. Oh, this is exactly what I want. Wouldn't you involve the process that was affected by the issue? For the longest time, education research didn't. The voices of those most affected by disparities and inequities were not part of the solution. All right, so this is looking specifically at the people who were ignored by education. But my guess is they'll have some recommendations about how to correct it. I don't know that I will be able to log into the system because my phone is currently being used as my camera. So I won't be able to do the dual factor authentication. And I don't remember my password. Well, that's embarrassing. So let me go here, amplifying student and youth voices. We'll go to Amazon. But I know that I can find that book once I remember how to log in. Amplifying student and youth voices. There it is. All I'm looking for here is a table of contents to see what the author does. Vernon Press. And I was really hoping I could click on that and view the first couple of pages, but it's not letting me. So that's not good. I'm going to have to download, or actually log in. So I'll write that down, amplifying student youth voices. And I'm just going to summarize kind of what that author, the author's main point. I probably only have to look at the introduction, unless there's a chapter that talks about a method that would be useful for gen ed practitioners, teachers, administrators, and so on. All right, so I've got, that's Millen. This would go here. The last thing I'm going to do is cheat a little bit because I'm Gen Ed coordinator. I happen to know the #1 resource that colleges and universities in the United States use for Gen Ed policies, which is the Association of American Colleges and Universities. That's not it. right, so this is it. Conference. This is the Association of American Colleges and Universities. I want to look at their resources by topic. These are trending topics. I want everything. So they used to have a Gen Ed conference. I know they changed it to Gen Ed and something else. Now it is maybe learning and student success. Maybe not. Well, so much for being the Gen Ed coordinator. These are just high impact practices. Okay, that's not going to help. They're too distant from my topic. I want something more specific to Gen Ed to fill out the rest of this. How about just going back to Galileo? I just want student-driven course design. Perceptions of healthcare, course design, implementation, and opportunities from a student-driven multidisciplinary perspective. Let's take a look at this. The study evaluates student-reported exposure. Student-reported. So it's just the students' feedback, but did they implement the feedback? Okay. This shows students giving feedback to this medical healthcare program, and then recommendations were made as to how that program could change. It doesn't sound like they made those changes, but this is an example of what we might follow. And there should be a PDF available. But that is not a full article. Usually it'll have the whole text on here, but this is looking like it's behind a paywall. While that is thinking, I'm going to copy. This is another trick I sometimes use if I'm having trouble tracking down an article. I'm going to put the article in quotations, followed by a PDF, and do a search that way. Nope. Ooh, it looks like it's getting me the PDF. If this works, then I will call it there. I will have found 2 articles in both sections of my outline. Yep, that is the one. Downloaded it. So this is Daniel Hu et al. And the year was Looking for year 2025. Who et al. 2025. Title is Perceptions of Healthcare Design. All right, so there are 4 resources. If I go back over here, so I showed you how to get the PDFs of those. So I did 4. I'm too short. I have a little bit more work to do. I walked you through the rationale as I was doing it. I didn't type that out, but I will type that out and provide that as resources. Again, any skillful engagement with AI is included. So that means I'm going to have to write a little bit about that process. So let me actually do some of that right now. I'll put it down here. Process followed. Remember, I have a little bit here. First thing I did was search these titles, million hits. I eventually searched for 2 separate but related categories. Any student involvement for course design. And then Gen Ed recommendations. This helped me find resources much more easily. When evaluating potential resources, I looked at author, publisher, and date of publication before even examining whether the topic was relevant. I had trouble finding one book, forgot login, and one article, Galileo said it was attached, but was not. I found the article by searching for it on the internet. So that's a little bit more transparency about the process that I followed. Engagement with AI. I didn't use an AI program, but encountered it in internet searches. I found it to be unhelpful because it kept misinterpreting what I wanted, which was frustrating. I had to outsmart the AI. All right, so in addition to the articles, I have all of this sort of transparency about the process. By the way, this took a lot longer than I was expecting it to, but between the first step and the second step, so rows 1 and 2 in the column, I haven't quite invested an hour. But again, I do this a lot, so I'm very experienced with this process, so maybe it'll take you a little bit longer, but hopefully by me talking through the frustrations that I experienced and how I solved some of those problems, you can recognize those steps that you follow in the process too, and maybe be heartened that the process isn't as simple as you might hope. So what's left is the step of reading through and kind of marking those up, and then writing up the manuscript, which I'll do, but I probably won't videotape myself as I'm doing it. I'll kind of do them and then walk you through what it was that I've done.